My name is Dr. Bonnie Hedrick, and in this video I want to tell you about April and a snowflake. Before we get into April's story, let me tell you how a snowflake forms. They start out as a cold water droplet, and it begins to take shape when it jumps on the back of a dust or pollen particle in the sky. As it falls to the ground, more water droplets jump on board, building new crystals, making the 6 arms of the snowflake. It is unique from all other snowflakes because each one travels to Earth on its own path, encountering different atmospheric conditions along the way. Now about April. She was born with everything she needed to grow into a happy, healthy, successful adult. She had a brain to learn how to crawl and walk, with amazing curiosity that led her to everything and everywhere. She had internal structures and processes designed to protect her, like a mechanism built inside to help her run or fight if she needed to. We call that the stress response. And embedded in her DNA, she had a need to connect to others. Humans develop in much the same way as a snowflake. We start out so small and new, a blank slate, some have said, ready to absorb all the things that life brings us. But as we follow our path, things happen. They happen to us, they happen around us, and they happen for us. These experiences are like the atmospheric conditions encountered by the snowflake, and they help to determine our uniqueness. These experiences affect us most in early childhood. They can be fun, fantastic experiences like a birthday party with lots of friends. Or, as it was in April's case, it can mean living in a home where yelling and fighting are the norm. In that instance, children experience the chaos and the verbal or actual violence, leaving them feeling unsafe and insecure. For most of us, though, it's a mix of good and bad times, which can lead to confusion about how to navigate our journey. April's father had a co-occurring mental illness and substance use disorder, which often made his behavior erratic. It was hard for him to find and keep a job, which often left his family longing for what they needed, much less what they wanted. April's chronic stress, caused by her chaotic home life, was compounded when she went to school. Because her clothes were tattered and sometimes unclean, she was often left out of activities or ignored by her classmates. As she got older, the cruelty of her classmates became more overt. They would pretend to or actually take pictures of her on their smartphone and then laugh like they were going to post it on social media. And often they did. April's dad went to prison when she was 9 for domestic violence. At times she was glad he was gone, but at other times his absence seemed to create a crack or hole in the family, and also inside her. A parent's absence from death, incarceration, or divorce can leave a child feeling abandoned. Sometimes when parents have overly demanding jobs or are distracted for other reasons, they can be emotionally and mentally absent, even if they are there physically. April internalized these childhood experiences, and from them she created a mental picture of herself. Dumb, ugly, mean. She looked for ways to deal with the emotional pain. In the beginning, she began pulling out her hair, a strand or two at a time, nothing too noticeable, until one day there was a bald patch on the top of her head and around her hairline. Then she turned to alcohol because that was always easy to get, and later to other things that would lessen her emotional pain. You see, from the moment she was born, her brain recorded everything that went on in her home, all the things that happened to her or around her, all her interactions with parents, caregivers, teachers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and other adults, how they spoke to her, what they said to her, what they did to her, and also how they nurtured her. As a result, she began to form scripts in her mind about who she was, her self-image. Social scientists have said that from these early experiences, we form 3 life scripts to help us navigate life and the future. The first script is the anti-self, because it is the one that fights against who we really are. The anti-self is a nagging voice that tries to sabotage everything we say and everything we do. It makes us question ourselves and distorts our thinking. It is a defense mechanism. It develops from the internalization of the ambivalence, rejection, hostility, neglect, and unresponsiveness we have received from significant others in our life. It is the one that we must learn to manage because it is the one that perpetuates a negative self-image. The second script is the person we aspire to be. Perhaps we have seen someone in our past who did something nice and received praise for it, and we want that kind of praise too. Or perhaps someone who was important to us kept urging us to be better at school, or basically just to be better. From these interactions, we create expectations for ourselves, and when we don't measure up, the anti-self is quick to point out our failure. And the third one is the real self, the imperfect one, like all other humans with both strengths and weaknesses. When April was 25, some friends introduced her to a group of people who supported her through a period of renewal. With their help, she began to recognize her potential. She stopped focusing on her faults and weaknesses, distorting failure and imperfections. As a result, it affected how she felt about herself and how she interacted with others. Looking at her real self boosted her physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. In the process, she found the courage and determination to thrive. We all have that kind of courage and determination. It just sometimes gets covered over with a lot of negativity and adversity. Now April is on the right path, one free from the trappings of her past, and one that reflects her fortitude, that ability to bear pain and rise above it, and her resiliency, the ability to bounce back. Self-image is not permanently fixed. From birth to death, we can learn to recognize the demoralizing chatter of the anti-self. We can learn how to develop a more realistic view of our strengths and our weaknesses. We can move forward with courage and determination. Yes, like snowflakes, we are all unique, but unlike snowflakes, humans can start over. So to conclude this video, I ask you, when you look in the mirror, who do you see?